of coffee, sit back and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire and motivate you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. Visit cyacyl.com.
Good morning, this is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Imagine being told twice in your life that you have end-stage cancer and aren't expected to live for more than a few weeks. Now imagine surviving both battles and then going on to challenge yourself beyond the comprehension of most people. Today's guest, Sean Swarner, did just that. Sean astounded the medical community by surviving 2 brutal diseases, chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. A decade later, with only partial use of his lungs, he became the first cancer survivor to climb Mount Everest. Sean undertook that challenge because he decided that after defeating cancer twice, no challenge would ever be too great or any peak too high. After Mount Everest, Sean climbed the highest peaks in Africa, Europe, South America, Australia, Antarctica, and North America. Sean is a motivational speaker, author of the book Keep Climbing, and founder of the nonprofit organization Cancer Climber. Good morning, Sean. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, it's quite an honor out there for that.
Sean, it's actually my honor to have you here on the show today. For me, you are a true example of the strength of the human spirit. You remind us that anything is possible, so I'm so glad that you stopped by today to share your story and your time with us.
Oh, well, no, it's my pleasure.
Sean, at age 13, you were diagnosed with the final stage of Hodgkin's disease, and the doctors gave you about 3 months to live. Do you remember what that was like at that time? Did you really comprehend what was going on with you?
You know, that's actually a great question. Being 13 and being thrust into a diagnosis of having only 3 months to live with Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's tough, and I don't really think I comprehended what was going on, simply because, I was at the cusp of my teen years. I just didn't fully grasp the ramifications of what having cancer really meant. I didn't know my life was in jeopardy.
So nobody had actually said, the talk or the discussion about a few months to live, that never even entered your realm of reality?
I'm sure they told me, but it kind of went in one ear and went out the other. Mm-hmm. And recently, I would say 3 months before I got diagnosed with cancer, my step-grandmother passed away from throat cancer. I think she was smoking too much, and my parents didn't want me to associate the C word, as we called it back then, the C word,
right,
with death because of what happened with my step grandmother. And they didn't necessarily tell me that they actually didn't tell me that I had cancer. They told me I had Hodgkin's disease. So as a child, back in the Stone Age, before we had the internet,
right,
I actually used the library and found out that Hodgkin's disease was a type of cancer. And that's how I remember finding out that I actually did have a diagnosis of cancer.
Sean, what was your treatment for Hodgkin's disease at that time?
Well, it was really rough. I was on a number of steroids and a bunch of chemotherapy. So I went through about a year of chemo. And, I gained 60 pounds from the prednisone. I lost all the hair on my body from my head to my toes. And I lost most of my friends. Rumors would go around. They would say, well, have you seen Sean? No, I haven't seen him. And then another friend would say, oh, I saw him in class. Another rumor would be, well, he's at home getting private tutoring. I saw him at the doctor's office getting his blood taken. And worse yet, rumors would go around that even, Sean was dead.
And Sean, I would assume that once the 3 months passed and you were still alive, you became somewhat of a medical marvel at that point.
It was weird because I did go past the 3 month phase. It was also weird because the hospital, I was 13 at the time, the hospital wanted me to write out a living will, and jokingly, I was like, I have a younger brother, he's going to get my hand-me-downs anyhow. What's the point of a living will? But it's 3 months, 4 months, 4 months was 5 months, and it just kept getting better and better.
Now, Sean, after that bout with the first type of cancer, the Hodgkin's disease, a few years later, you were diagnosed once again with another end-stage cancer when they found a large tumor in your right lung. Again, this time was actually worse. They didn't think you were going to live 2 weeks. So what happened then?
Yeah, that one was really tough. I was diagnosed with a type of cancer that affects 3 out of 1 million people with a prognosis of about 5%. So if you have 100 people with this illness, 95 people die. And the doctors at that time told my parents that I had 14 days to live. I was even read my last rites.
And what was the treatment for that cancer?
Well, that one was really rough because no one has ever been diagnosed with having Hodgkin's, and the second cancer was Askin sarcoma. And believe it or not, the chances of me surviving both cancers is equivalent to you winning the lottery 4 times in a row with the same exact numbers. So the doctors didn't really know what to do. They just bombarded me with a chemical cocktail, and I went through basically, well, in one day, let me back up. In one day, they found a tumor on an X-ray. They did a needle biopsy. They took out some lymph nodes. They put in a Hodgkin catheter, which is a permanent IV. They cracked open my ribs, took out the tumor, put in a drainage tube, and started chemotherapy. It was so bad and such an aggressive form of cancer, the doctors wanted to take care of it then and there, and they just bombarded my body with this chemical cocktail that they made up. And I went through 3 months of intense chemo, 1 month of intense radiation therapy, and then 10 more months of intense chemotherapy. And every time I went in for a treatment, believe it or not, the doctors would put me in a medically-induced coma. So I don't even remember being 16 years old.
Sean, since that time, have you had any other cancer recurrences or any other kinds of treatments?
No, it's nice because, like I said, the doctors gave me 14 days to live, but I am proud to say that it was over 16 years ago.
And so from that time on, you really are a miracle. And what do you attribute your survival to?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think I'm a living, breathing, walking miracle, and I think I can give it my health and my life is a tribute to a number of things. And it's a combination of modern medicine, family support, prayer, and just an inner will to keep going and keep moving forward.
Sean, what would you say to someone who has just been told those words, you have cancer?
Well, I would say a number of things, but the first thing that just pops in my mind is that cancer is a word, not a sentence.
And how can someone recover from that initial feeling that they've just been handed a death sentence?
You know, there are people all over the world who are cancer survivors now, and people are getting diagnosed earlier and earlier, and the medicine that we have now is leaps and bounds from where it was when I was sick. You know, when I had my radiation, it was just a bombardment of gamma radiation that just went right through my chest, which also just gave me one fully functioning lung because there's so much scar tissue. Now they have the gamma knife. They have radiation from 360 degrees where they can go, you know, have the radiation hit from microns of the tumor, leaving very little scar tissue. So we've gone leaps and bounds in technology. And the psychology behind everything, the medicine behind everything. You know, like I said, cancer is a word, not a sentence, and there's so many different things available now as far as support, family support, like I said, psychological support. And there are so many different things nowadays that really help people become survivors, and not just survivors, but thrivers.
And I think probably one of the most important things is what your work is all about, and that's the one word, hope. And you have a wonderful quote on your website where you say, the human body can survive for about 30 days without food. The human condition can sustain itself for about 3 days without water. But no human alive can survive for more than 30 seconds without hope, because without hope, we truly have nothing. And I know that's what inspires you to go out and do the work that we're about to talk about, because you went from being this cancer survivor with limited lung capacity, and you at that point realized, okay, I've survived this, that there really is nothing else that I can't challenge myself to undertake. So you came up with the notion to climb Mount Everest. How did that come about? Were you a seasoned climber, or was this something new to you?
I think after a couple beers, my brother and I...
The greatest ideas always start in a bar.
No, it came from the idea that when I went to school, when I first went to college, I started off molecular biology. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was going to play God by curing cancer and splicing genes and everything else. I took immunology, organic chemistry, and after organic chemistry, I was just, it beat me up and down. I just had no interest anymore. So I switched to psychology, and then I eventually went to grad school, and I was working towards my doctorate. I was planning on being a psychologist for cancer patients, which is a psycho-oncologist. And during my studies, I wanted to take a sabbatical because when I was in school, in high school, I was known as Cancer Boy. Mm-hmm. You know, I grew up in a small town. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew my business. And everybody knew I had cancer. Everybody was supporting me. I went to college, and I turned into Belushi from Animal House. I had a wonderful time. When I went to grad school, it was the first time when I was actually sitting there. I remember sitting at a stoplight going to work, and the car in front of me pulled forward, and I was still staring at the space where the license plate used to be. And I just thought to myself, you know, something has to change. And I realized that cancer wasn't necessarily a definitive, defining moment to describe who Sean Swarner is, but it definitely has become a part of my life, and it has helped me become the person I am today. And I also realized that during the sabbatical from my studies, emotionally, I don't think I was ready to handle dealing with patients every day. I've been through a lot myself, and I wouldn't be able to handle looking into patients' eyes every day, knowing what they're going through, and it being like a reflection of what I went through. But I knew that life was too precious and short, and I really wanted to make a difference in the lives of people around the world touched by cancer, and did some research, and with the help of my brother, we founded the Cancer Climber Association, and we wanted to use basically the highest platform in the world to scream hope.
Sean, we have to take a break at this point. When we return, Sean's going to talk about what it's like to climb to the highest peaks in the world. This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman, and today's guest is Sean Swarner, a motivational speaker, founder of Cancer Climber, and author of the book, Keep Climbing. Sean, before break, I had started to begin the discussion with you regarding how you became a mountain climber and someone who has actually climbed the highest peaks of the world. What was it like for you to make that climb and stand at the top of Mount Everest?
Well, obviously, you can't just... I live in Colorado, and it's getting to Nepal and climbing Everest isn't exactly like going out my front door and driving 30 minutes to a 14,000-foot peak where I put my running shoes on and run up the mountain.
Which, Everest, by the way, for most of us would still be a major accomplishment.
But when you live out here and you live at 9,000 feet and you go train for that stuff, it's something that you really have to do. But getting over to Everest, I mean, it's twice the size of the highest mountain we have in Colorado, and not from trailhead to the summit, from sea level to the summit. Jumbo jets level off at the altitude that Everest sits. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult enough going up with two lungs, but I was battling in the elements in the oxygen-starved situations and altitude where I was going up with my one lung. But I had a silk flag that had names of cancer patients and cancer survivors and people who passed away from cancer, unfortunately. I had all those names on a flag, a silk flag that was tucked into my chest pocket close to my heart, always as a constant reminder of my goals and of my spirit, basically. And every single person touched by cancer essentially carried me to the summit of Everest. It was almost an homage to the people who were touched by cancer. So when I was on the summit of Everest, I wasn't alone. Every single person in the world who's ever been touched by cancer was up there with me, sharing that moment.
So, Sean, you're at the top of Mount Everest, literally at the top of the world. You've, at this point, achieved more than anyone could have ever imagined, you including. So why did you feel the need to climb 6 more summits?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I can probably put you over to my parents because they want to know the answer to that, too. I think because I got bit by the climbing bug, and we also didn't reach as many people as we had hoped by climbing Everest. There were a number of factors that went against me. People in the media, people in the news who kind of overlooked what I did, and I was doing it, like I said, to help other people and show them what's possible. And I thought that maybe by climbing the highest mountain on every continent, it's called the 7 Summits, and I thought by maybe doing that I could reach more people and not just show, what's possible and show people some hope, but also by going into those countries and those continents and putting another flag on top of those continents and having more people touched by cancer around the world, and also visiting local hospitals, which I'd love to do. Everywhere I go, even on vacation, I try to visit local hospitals and share my survivorship story with patients because I have this notion of a circle of hope or a circle of inspiration where the top part of the circle represents me climbing and me climbing the mountains, and the bottom part of the circle represents what every cancer patient has gone through or whatever cancer patient is going through, a struggle and a battle for their lives. And I get my hope and my inspiration from the true climbers in life, the real people who are battling for their lives, people who are touched by cancer. So when I'm climbing, I get my inspiration from them to keep climbing, which is my tagline, keep climbing, always keep moving forward. When I come back, I hope to complete that circle by sharing my survivorship and my stories with those exact same people who gave me hope and inspiration. So hopefully I can give them some hope and inspiration and thank them for giving me hope and inspiration in return.
Sean, so many of us, we battle challenges on a daily basis, and so many live with fear that they feel that they can't overcome their limitations. You have overcome tremendous obstacles in your life. What would you say to someone to face their challenges, to overcome their limitations? Is it as simple as finding your inspiration?
You know, I'm actually working on a number of things right now, and one of them is I'm trying to help design what I'm going to call the 7 Summits to Success, and it's going to be helping people find what we're dubbing your life purpose. You know, and it could be your life purpose for 10 years, and you move on to another one. But I tell people who are going through some rough times, you know, there's always something there. There's always going to be a door that opens. And if a door closes in your face, don't focus so long on the door that's closed, because you might turn around and the door that you just came through might be closed as well. You know, if you're focusing so much on a closed door, you might not even notice that another one's open. And along those same lines, some people have the defeatist attitude, poor me, and all these negative thoughts, these negative ideas. If you picture your brain kind of like a glass of water, clean water represents positive thoughts. Dirty water represents negative thoughts. If you take a glass of dirty water and stick it underneath a faucet, streaming full of clean water, and you just hold it there for a while, what's going to happen? You know, eventually that dirty water is going to be replaced by the clean water, just like your mind and just like thoughts. If you constantly feed yourself positive thoughts, surround yourself by positive people, you know, all that's going to be in your brain and all that's going to be in your head are positive thoughts. Granted, you're going to have a little granules of dirty water and bacteria, whatever, floating around, and they get lodged in your head. You know, negative thoughts get lodged in your head. But for the most part, you just keep moving forward, keep pushing forward, keep being positive, and always keep climbing.
And that's what we say here. If you change your attitude, you change your life. Sean, in preparation for this show, I had actually put up a blurb on Facebook about this interview, and I shared just very briefly your story. And a woman had posted that her husband is battling his second time with end-stage cancer, and that she found your story to be incredibly inspiring, and she just wished she could meet you. And what would you say to that person, and how does that make you feel when people that are in the fight of their life find you to be an inspiration to them?
You know, that's a good question. Honestly, at times, I feel guilty. And I know that's probably not the response that most people would expect to hear. But sometimes I feel guilty for surviving, because there's so many people who don't survive. And I wish I could do so much more to help them. So in a way, sometimes, like I said, I do feel guilty for being a survivor. And I know that's, like I said, that's not a response that most people would expect, and that's a response that I've given before. And people say, you know, you shouldn't feel guilty, but you know, you can't take someone's feelings away from them. But wherever those people are, when I visit the hospitals, I try to be myself. I try to joke around. I try to, you know, leave them with a sense of hope and inspiration, because, you know, there's always something you can do. There's always a way that you can change your attitude, and there's always a way that you can see the silver lining in the cloud. It might be difficult, but there's always a way that you can do it. If there's a will, that old saying, if there's a will, there's a way.
Well, you know, Sean, to put my own 2 cents in, I think your feelings are completely normal, but I also believe that you've been put on this earth for a very important mission, and I think that you are fulfilling that mission. So just always remember that. I think there was a very important plan for your life.
Well, I appreciate it. And that old saying, you know, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe in that as well.
Now, Sean, what do the doctors say about your prognosis? Are they worried, or are you ever worried about the cancer recurring?
You know, I go in once a year for a checkup, and that's the only time I really worry about getting cancer again. I go in for a CBC, platelet, they do a liver function, kidney function, all the blood work. And I tell my friends and my family, hey, I'm going in for my checkup. You know, I'm not going to be myself until I get the results back. So they just kind of let me go and let me do my thing. And I in the deepest part of my heart, my soul, I don't think I'm going to get cancer again. But there's always that chance. And like I said, there's one time a year that I fear getting it, and it really is a reality. I do think about it when I visit children in hospitals. I do think about it when I go visit other people in the hospitals who are battling for their lives. But I think that's more, like I said, more of a guilty feeling for survivorship. But I think I'm going to be okay.
The book is Keep Climbing by Sean Swarner, and the organization is Cancer Climber. If you'd like more information about Sean and his work, you can visit his website, SeanSwarner.com. That's SWARNER, SeanSwarner.com. And as always, you can visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, and now take part in our book club. Sean, very quickly, before we run out of time, What would you like our listeners to walk away with from this interview?
Well, like you said before, the human body can live for 30 seconds without food. The human condition can sustain itself for roughly 3 days without water. No human alive can live for more than 30 seconds without hope. We always have to have hope, and we always have to keep that going. And no matter what obstacle gets in the way, always keep climbing.
Sean, thank you so much for being with us today. Your life is an inspiration, and you give us hope. So I'm very honored to have had you here today. Thank you.
Quite an honor myself. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.